I think the best way to qualify yourself is to actually put the information into action in an actual practice. Because you could get a million certifications, but if you're not practicing with actual human beings, including yourself, it doesn't make a difference, right?
Hey, health coaches, we have to talk. The wellness industry is worth trillions. So every time that we or our clients buy that $70 weighted vest or a fancy adaptogen latte or even another health coach certification, someone is cashing in. So here's the question. How much are we out here improving health and happiness, and how much are we fueling the industry's bottom line? In this episode, I'm joined by my friend Andrea Beaman, and we're going to talk about why we really got into this work. I want to bring the heart back into a field that sometimes puts profit over people. So if that resonates and you want to help reconnect yourself to your mission as a coach, I've got some simple journaling prompts to help you find that clarity and get grounded. Text the word mission to me and I'll send you those journal prompts. It's really easy to text. Just go to healthcoachpower.com/text and send me the single word mission. And with that, let's get into the episode. Andrea is fabulous, a real veteran of the health coaching world. I would say she paved the way for the rest of us. I remember seeing her on stage when I was a student at IIN, and years later, we hosted a radio show together. Now, we're practically neighbors. You're in for a treat. Well, it is great to see you again, my friend.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to see you, Michelle.
I'm so glad that you could join me. I know you've been on various, we've done all kinds of podcasts and shows together, and it is always a great time. So all my listeners are in for a treat. Thanks again.
Well, now it has to be good. You're hyping it up.
I know, right? Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm your hype woman. I'll record the intro to this later, but I'm sure I will already have hyped you up tremendously. And I just want to let everyone know, and new listeners, especially, this podcast is usually about business and marketing for health coaches. But damn, I like to remember why we're here and why we do this work in the first place. It's not about funnels and algorithms. That's not why we get out of bed. So the heart of health coaching. And I was thinking, I've been in this industry for 100 years, which means you've been in the health coaching world for 200 years now?
At least since the dark ages.
Yeah, so I think this is important because we have a lot of new health coaches just graduating. The scene has changed a bit in the past 100 or 200 years. So let's just start, back in the dark ages. I know you got into health coaching because of your own health journey, and I've heard this story a million times and I love it. But can you tell all our listeners a little bit about how you wound up here?
Well, it's a great story.
Sure is.
So it actually precedes my own illness, right? My initial journey. I had thyroid disease, right? Which a lot of people know who know me, but they don't know the seed that was planted in me, which happened 5 years prior. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer for the second time. And we went the traditional route that you do, the chemotherapy, the radiation, all that stuff. And my dad had read an article about this Dr. Hugh Faulkner that had healed himself from pancreatic cancer, of all things, using diet. His colleague said, listen, buddy, you got 3 months, 6 months maximum. And he's like, I'm going to try something else outside of my medical expertise. So he found macrobiotics, and he lived 10 years beyond his 6-month diagnosis. So my dad read that article and he said, hey, let's try this with your mom. Let's try this, weird food. So we did. She had already been through radiation and chemotherapy and all that stuff. And we started to incorporate this whole foods, natural foods. There was nothing out of a box except for the rice. Right?
Yes.
But after that, it was all like everything you would get from a farm, basically. And we noticed that my mother's energy shifted. Right. So she had, from all the radiation and the chemo, she had no hair and gray lips and gray skin. And then we started feeding her this food and she got a little color back in her cheeks and her eyes perked up a little bit and she could sit up in the bed. So it wasn't enough to bring her back from the brink of those very dangerous treatments that she had gone through. But it was enough to plant in me the seed that if anything happens, I'm going to try food first. I'll try food first before doing anything radical to my body, like destroy it with radiation. So when I got diagnosed with my big goiter and thyroid disease, the doctor had said, you need radioactive iodine to destroy that thyroid. And I was like, I don't need radioactive anything. I'm not taking radioactive. Goodbye to that. So let me see, just so people could get a little look. So see my large goiter?
Yes.
Yeah, so they said, you can't heal that thing with diet and lifestyle. That's nonsense. That's crazy. And so I changed literally my diet and my lifestyle, stopped drinking coffee all day long, stopped hanging out and partying all night long, right? And I started to eat like this weird food. And my goiter kept shrinking. My thyroid levels became normal, and I've been shouting it from the rooftops ever since. And it's funny, my nephew, who's 20 years old, he just contacted me and he's like, Aunt Fanny, I'm at, he's doing some work in Maine up in the parks. And he said, I'm with this guy, and this guy says, there's no way that you could heal with food. There's no way. And so I sent him the pictures of the before and after, like one of today and one of like 30 years ago. And he was like, damn, right? So it's nice to have proof of healing, but I don't think that when you know it, you don't need the proof. You just know it. You follow that direction and you're like, okay, like what you talked about, like how do we get into this in the first place? So for me, it was that initial calling. Like I can heal this thing naturally. I don't care what 3 doctors said to me. It wasn't just the one. It was 3 doctors over a 2-year period.
I bet.
Oh my God. They were all like, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do that. You're crazy. But I understand it because that's their own programming. That's what they've been taught in medical school. And medical school is great for some things, but when it comes to healing the body and preventing disease, they're so lost and confused. It's crazy. But, like they're great at putting you back together. If you get broken to pieces, you fall down a mountain, right? Or you get into a ski accident or a car accident, you go right to the hospital. They put you back together. That's where they excel. But when it comes to healing disease, I think that they're literally in the dark ages, and I think that part of that is because there is another stream of consciousness that has permeated the medical industry. And the main focus is on how to make the most money. Can we get people into this system? And it's a revolving door system that keeps them sick and tired and needing more medication and then a surgery and more medication. And we'll get them for life. That's what we'll do. We'll get them for life. So as far as how I got in because of a sickness, like how a lot of people get into health and wellness, but I stayed in because there's some truths that need to be shared with the rest of the population.
And did you ever think of like, maybe I should become a doctor? Like, how did you get into health coaching specifically is what I was wondering.
Oh, it's funny. My dad, when he was still alive, when I was first starting this, he said, Ann, you should really become a doctor. He said, I'd be like, oh, this is good for this. And I was reading all these books on alternative medicine and Chinese medicine and all the old stuff. And he's like, you should really think about becoming a doctor because doctors are respected and doctors have validation of their career.
Yeah.
Right? They're validated by the AMA and all that stuff. And I said, no, I had no desire. I told my dad, I said, I don't have the desire to become a doctor because they couldn't help me. My desire lies elsewhere. And for me, I was drawn back toward ancient medicine, like ancient healing medicine, like traditional Chinese medicine, classical Chinese medicine, and Ayurvedic medicine. Like that stuff spoke to me because it hadn't been corrupted yet. Right? It's an old medicine that has not been corrupted by the powers that be to just keep making money, regardless of the outcomes.
Right. Those things, I suppose there's books and there are some things you can buy related to ancient medicine, but it certainly hasn't been monetized the way that, I don't know, like turned into a Whole30 trademark, registered, copyrighted, system, right? basically the old stuff written down in a few places.
It's old stuff. I mean, they teach it in acupuncture school and Ayurvedic traditions, but it's old stuff. And when you look at it, the old stuff that they were recommending was the herbs and the foods that you have access to, lifestyle. In Ayurvedic, the yoga principles, right? They had you literally move your body in a specific way to energize and open your energy systems. Same thing with the TCM and with Tai Chi and Douyin and Qigong, right? All of these are movement exercises to literally get your energetic body moving so it functions properly. Because I personally believe that the human body is perfectly designed. And we're designed to be happy and healthy and vibrant for the time that we're inhabiting it, right? Not decrepit and rolling down the street in a wheelchair because you lost access to your legs because they're diabetes. That's what I believe. So if people want this type of medicine, they have to actually put it to use. I'm trying to get a CSA, a community supported agriculture, started on this side of the river. On my side of the river.
I'm on the other side, if anyone was wondering. Andrea and I we could throw a rock at each other's house, but there's just a couple miles of water in between.
It's true. So I'm trying to get a CSA started on this side of the river, and I'm trying to engage the community leaser of this apartment complex that I live in. And she's like, but who's going to cook?
Wow.
She said, who's gonna cook for themselves? If they get all this food, who are they gonna actually cook? And I said it's very insightful because most people are not cooking. When I say most, I mean like the regular population. They're not in the
normal people, not us health coaches. Normal people. I like to remind everyone we are not normal.
No. We're the outliers.
Yeah.
We're totally the outliers. We cook, we care for ourselves, we exercise, we meditate. We do the things to help the body and the mind and the spirit feel good.
Wow. Well, I hope you get that CSA going over there and teach somebody to cook. I mean, you're right. We are not normal. And even though we just made that blanket statement about like all of us health coaches and we're outliers, more and more I feel like there's this wide range of health coaches because there are more and more schools. So there's more and more backgrounds that people are coming from and ways that they're getting certified and what they're learning. So we've got like some health coaches are all about a certain dietary theory. I'm a primal coach or I'm a whole food plant-based coach or something like that. We got like the functional medicine peeps. We've got some that are like super duper into the motivational interviewing and they've like really studied that stuff, the coaching skills. And of course, you're known more for this ancient medicine. What do you think? Do you think all of these different coaching styles can all live together? Do you think some are at odds with each other? And does ancient medicine work with all of them? That's really my question.
Oh, well, I think that there is a place for all of the different types of medicines, right? Just like I said that there's a time and a place for the hospital. And people will be drawn to specific types of healing modalities at certain times in their life. So somebody may be drawn to Ayurvedic, somebody may be drawn to Paleo, somebody may be drawn to AIP, somebody may be drawn to gluten-free, somebody may be drawn to life coaching, right? And I think that when we start to tap into, well, this is what I need to learn at this time right now in my life, without any judgment, without any, I shoulda, coulda, woulda done that, right? All the shoulda, woulda, coulda words. But I think that when you get called in a specific direction, whatever it is. Like for me, in the beginning, it was macrobiotics and Chinese medicine. And then, of course, it changed. It transformed over time. Then I was like, well, let me try this paleo thing, right? And let me try this keto thing, and let me try this. And then for me, personally, after 30 years doing this, it swung back around to ancient medicine. Like literally swung right back there. And I was like, oh, this is, for me, what makes the most sense, right? I'm literally living on this planet. I'm connected to the cycles and the seasons. My system is set up for this planet, right?
It's amazing, right? Like, who would have thunk?
Yes, like even in the ancient texts, they would say that man is a smaller version of the earth and the entire universe. And when I say man, it includes us fabulous women. womans. We are womans. So I think that there is a time and a place, and whenever somebody is open to learning something, they'll be exactly where they're supposed to be at that time until they're done with it. And then they're like, I am done with this, whatever it is, vegan, keto, this one, that one, life. I even have a friend of mine who is a marketing master. Like, she's like a marketing master, and she's been doing marketing for 30 years. She told me the other day, she goes, I'm done with marketing.
Yes. There's different seasons in life. You go through a phase here, a phase there. Maybe it's a 30-year phase, but still. It makes a lot of sense to me. And my first foray into any of this was also macrobiotics, weirdly, because a lot of people have never even heard of it, but that was my start as well. And I felt like the one thing I've learned through all these years of like trying stuff, like you said, I had my vegan era, I had my paleo era, is you pick stuff up. You know, maybe there's one practice or one habit that really stays with you years, decades later that you learned when you were like, you know, making all that rice on the macrobiotic diet. And, you know, it's kind of like your resume. You know, you end up with a job that takes bits and pieces of stuff that you've learned along the way. And oh, look, somehow it all weaves together. So like, maybe for all our newer coaches, just know whatever you're doing now is probably going to change. You know, whatever you're thinking now, whatever you think is the best or the worst, like having that open mind is going to allow you to like bring together the best teachings from anything that you might study.
I agree. And when I was first studying macrobiotics at the Kushi Institute in Massachusetts, there was a teacher. His name was Mark Van Cowenberg. And he said to me one night, we were having an argument about food and all that stuff. And he said to me, he goes, all disease is spiritual sickness. And I was like, it's the craziest thing I've ever heard. He's like, this heart attacks the heart, and this is, you get cancer from this and all this stuff. And I think it was like 20 years after that statement, I was like, wow, Mark was so right. All disease comes from spiritual sickness, like a disconnect from connection, so to speak. And that to me was a great mind-opening experience, that it's not just food, right? Because I thought for 20 years or 15 years, food is the answer, and food, you could do this, and herbs and this, right? But it opened up a whole new world that we can transmute a lot of the food, and we can transmute a lot of the chaos when we're grounded and we're connected, so to speak, right? Because, you know, when you're grounded, you're literally getting a better, what's it called? Like, remember the little rabbit ears on the television?
Oh.
Right?
I can't think of words anymore, Andrea. A signal?
A signal. Yes. So when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, we actually had those little rabbit ears on the television. And
yes.
You'd have to like move them around a little bit so that you could get your signal, right? You would literally get your signal. And I feel like when we are grounded, when our humanness is grounded and steady and connected, we get a better signal.
I agree with you. And I remember the bunny ears, and maybe somebody's dad was up on the roof trying to put those bunny ears up higher to get the better signal, get the city's TV shows. That's so funny. Now, I bet when you're like, you know, working with clients, like some clients might be open to hearing about that. But I bet most normal people don't want to hear anything about their bunny ear antennas being grounded, none of that business. They just want to maybe dip into the idea that food is medicine. Like, you kind of got to lead with the thing that is most accessible.
100%. If they're living in a physical body, I give them a menu of foods that literally connect to their physical body. Like, if I were to lead with, we have to get your signal clear, I'd have no clients.
Right. Sometimes I bet they get there towards the end, though. Don't you see a shift?
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Over time.
Yeah.
Some of them, that's right. All right, well, tell us then, when we're operating through this ancient medicine lens, and that's an amalgamation of Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, some of the others that you mentioned earlier, what are some of those main human body symptoms or areas of health to look at through that lens? Like, what are the most important things that are your like go-tos for most of your clients?
Well, I mean, first, you know, we have to figure out which organ system is struggling the most. So your whole body is connected. This is not compartmentalized the way that Western medicine. The whole body is connected. Everything is connected to everything. They're all talking to each other. All the organ systems have like little personalities. So if I'm talking to a client and they are struggling with fear, excessive fear, a lot of fear, right? This is an indicator that the kidneys are not functioning well. Because in ancient medicine, the kidneys house both courage and fear, right? So like the heart houses anxiety and joy, right? So when the heart is not functioning as optimally as it could be, there could be lots of blips of anxiety going on. As opposed to a joyful, when the heart is functioning really at capacity, there's this joy that is coming from that system. So each of the organ systems speak, literally. So if somebody comes to me and, like I said, they have excessive fear, they're afraid of everything, they're afraid of this, they're afraid of that, afraid of this, I know that I am first and foremost focusing on nourishing that kidney element. So to nourish the kidney element, we're talking bone stocks, we're talking proteins, beans, meats, like all of the things, because the kidneys are physically responsible for the water-soluble proteins, right? And if they're not getting nourished properly, then they will speak. I can't digest this. I can't process that. I can't get rid of this. And there's going to be a buildup in the system. And like, if we look around, another good one, chronic worry. Right? So chronic worry lives in the spleen, stomach, pancreas, when you're worried about everything. Or if you're ruminating, thoughts are ruminating, oh God, the worry. This is different than fear, right? Fear is afraid of this, afraid of that, afraid of... Worry is, this is going to happen. That's, oh gosh.
What if this, what if that?
Yes, they're ruminating. When the stomach, spleen, pancreas is out of balance, you're going to get that chronic worry, that chronic rumination. When the stomach, spleen, pancreas is balanced and happy and healthy, you're going to get compassion. Compassion is living there. And if we look at Americans, right, they're chronic worriers because they're damaging their stomach, spleen, pancreas by overeating the sweet flavor. Right? This is so each of the organ systems not only have a personality, they're each nourished or harmed by a specific flavor. So that sweet flavor nourishes the stomach, spleen, pancreas, and America is addicted to sugar. So we're
A little bit.
we're chronic worriers, right? So, all of the organ systems talk. And when I'm sitting with someone, one of their organ systems generally is speaking louder than the other. So that's where I start. So I'll create a menu that is kidney forward or stomach forward or liver forward or heart forward, meaning I'm nourishing that organ system first, just trying to get the whole system in balance, but focusing on those specific organs first.
Right. As you were talking, I was like, I could see how this would help you navigate. Where do I go with this client? Where do we even begin? That's so interesting. And so that sounds to me a lot like when you go for acupuncture.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing a similar thing.
Yeah. And they're literally putting little antennas in you.
That's so interesting. And I don't think any of this is being taught in any health coaching school I've heard anyone graduating from recently.
Yeah, no, I learned this on my own and by self-study and then studying deeper with practitioners because that really called to me. That was making so much sense to me in my own life and with clients. It just was I was like, boop. When something really connects with you on a deeper level, that to me was like, wow, okay, this is for now, or this is how I'm navigating the physical body on this experience called Earth in a human flesh suit.
Hurtling through space, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I love that. So hopefully that opens our listeners' minds a little bit about other ways of thinking of the body, of symptoms, or even just of a pathway that you might take with a client. It doesn't all have to start with eating more dark leafy greens or drinking more water.
That's right. Everybody thinks about, or at least I don't know if they still think about kale as the superfood of every couple of years, or every decade, there's another superfood that is marketed to the masses, right? So in the 1980s, broccoli and cauliflower were marketed to the masses as like the cancer prevention. Everybody was eating broccoli and cauliflower, right? And then you come up, and then blueberries had their time, right? Their time in the sun, and then dates, right? So you have all of these foods that are promoted and marketed to the masses because there's an industry behind it, right? And I understand that blueberries and kale are amazing, but maybe they're not good all year long or for all people or for all conditions. But I can guarantee you this much. If you get somebody off junk food and onto real food, broccoli and kale and blueberries, right, and some proteins in there, they're going to have a shift in their physical body's reaction. I think that all of those limited diets have benefit because they get you off junk food.
Yes. That's like, I think one thing that every single one of the diets we've mentioned so far today, like, it doesn't really matter to me which one. It doesn't matter if you do it exactly right. Oh, you're a vegan, but you like to eat meat every now and then. Fine. I don't care. As long as it's not coming out of, a frozen aisle or McDonald's or something like that. Everyone starts to feel better. That's amazing. It's so simple. I don't even know why we have to keep saying it. It's so obvious.
Well, it's obvious because we're in circles that talk about it. But if you're in the regular land, right, regular people land, and you're watching regular TV and you're listening to regular news, you're getting bombarded with advertisements that are telling you, eat this food, go to this fast food place, this is on sale, you get a Happy Meal. And also, in between all of those advertisements for this gigantic food industry, right next to it are advertisements for the pharmaceutical industry. And you see all the happy people in the ads, and they're, take this, whatever it is, and they're happy and they're running around and having a good time. And then underneath the ad, you hear the little tiny voice that's saying, taking this
may cause death.
May cause death, heart failure, kidney failure, and impotence, right?
Yeah.
So they're telling you exactly what it is while showing you this picture of happiness, right? So if for regular people, they haven't heard this type of stuff because they're trapped in a world that is keeping their senses occupied by these visions of happy and healthy that are not true.
So listen, I got kind of a nerdy question for you. Not health nerdy either, just about this whole industry that we're in. So, we're a bunch of health coaches, but even if you think of other practitioners that maybe you've studied with or you've gone to, you have your acupuncturist or you have your yoga teachers or you have whomever. Everyone has a different certification, a different diploma maybe on their wall. I don't have any back there, but mine are all in a box. I feel like there's an awful lot of talk about staying within our scope of practice. And so I heard that laugh. Now, when you just said, like, oh, I can talk to someone and I can know they need a kidney forward menu, I know somebody's ears are going off like, no, that's so out of scope. That's so out of scope. You can't diagnose. You can't prescribe. And I just thought you could speak to that.
Yes, of course. So prior to all of the certifications and the capture of knowledge and medicine by big industries and governments and states, prior to that, how did people learn? For thousands of years, how did people learn? How did people heal? Well, generally, there was maybe a shaman in the tribe or a medicine person in the tribe who certainly didn't have any qualifications from a big industry that had to keep them in their lanes, but they knew something. They had access to something, and that was handed down from generation to generation to generation. So for me, I don't care how many certifications you have on your wall, right? That's not the true judge of knowledge for me, right? So the doctors that diagnosed me and said that I would never heal all had been through medical school, right? All had their certifications, all had their doctor licenses, but they all were incorrect. Right? All of them were incorrect. So I understand that we have been led to believe that we need a specific oh, you need a doctor of this and you need this, that, and the other thing. It's nice to get that stuff, but I wouldn't hang your whole career on it, because I know lots of doctors that are, right, they're giving out information that are not really serving people, right? And then there are doctors, of course, that are serving people and doing things that could be beneficial, right? And even the doctors that are probably harming people with a lot of the medications, I think that somewhere in them, they're thinking that they're doing the right thing. Like,
Sure.
for example, let's even look at Ozempic, right? Look at they've been prescribing Ozempic to everybody for everything, right? There's a lot of money in Ozempic. And now what do we find out a few years later? Muscle loss, you can't get that muscle back, especially, that they just came out with a study that shows not only muscle loss by Ozempic, but bone loss as well. So now you're giving this Ozempic to people to help them lose weight in an unnatural way, right? It actually paralyzes the stomach. How is that good? Right? How is that good for anyone? Paralyzing the stomach. And then their other systems in their body start to break down and fall away.
Oh, but Andrea, if they have bone loss, that's okay. We have a drug for that.
That's right.
You guys hearing a thread through this whole conversation? Follow the money. Follow the money. And, even for health coaches who've gone to this school or this certification program, follow that money too. The more regulated things become, the bigger the industry gets, the more opportunities for these various certifications exist. Follow the money.
That's correct. It's funny. I have been teaching my New Healers Master Coaching Program since 2012 and online. And it's a program where I teach people how to understand the body from a deeper perspective. And a lot of the students that come in there always say, what type of certification do I get on the other side? And I tell them it's a mentorship program. You're literally getting mentored with information and knowledge that's been passed down from thousands of years, right? And they may feel that they need a certification to be qualified, but I think the best way to qualify yourself is to actually put the information into action in an actual practice, right? Because you could get 1 million certifications, but if you're not practicing with actual human beings, right, including yourself, it doesn't make a difference, right? Why do you think a doctor's practice is called a practice? They're practicing on people, right? So
it's true. It's true. I'm so glad you said that, because we have so many health coaches sitting around with lots of knowledge and certifications and walls of books that they've read, but it's not doing anything to help the world because they don't have anyone that they're working with. And that is the whole reason that we do the marketing, right? Just to circle back to the beginning of the episode. We only do the marketing so that we can take that knowledge and practice it. Otherwise, who are we serving? Nothing. Our brain's just getting bigger.
And the brain can get congested with so much information, right? So if you're just putting information in without utilizing it in some way, then you don't know what's actually going to work. This will work maybe for this, maybe this will work for that, maybe this will work for that, right? You have to really start to be discerning with the knowledge. And the way to do that is through practice, like literally through practice.
All right, well, you heard it from Andrea Beaman herself, everyone. Quit it with the stuff in your brain full of knowledge. Get out there, work with some people, see what you learn. I think you will get your certification. You will get your PhD just by working with a number of clients.
Totally.
And they pay you.
Yeah.
It's kind of a win-win, That's always my preferred form of learning, is actually getting in the trenches with people and putting this into practice.
Yes. And you want to hear something funny? Like, even in the health coaching world, there's what I call shysters, right? My Food is Medicine program, my New Healers program, they were certified with a stamp from the National Institute of Health Coaching, something or other. It was like the NHWBC, something. I forget what it was called. And then 2 years ago, I got an email from them. And they said, you can't use our badges anymore unless you change the language on your landing pages, because we can't say, and the people that we certify can't say that any type of healing comes from food or herbs.
Right.
So she goes, if you change the language on your landing pages, then you can keep our certification. And I sent him back an email and I said, you can keep your certification because I know something different. I don't know what regulations you're under, but I know and I can see with my own eyes and experience and being in practice that when people change their food, their physical body changes. So I'm going to give you back your certification.
Yeah, well, I wonder if they gave you back the money you paid for it in the first place.
No.
Again, follow the money, right? The more rules, the more certifications, the more seals that get stamped, there's money behind all of them.
That's correct.
But what you see and know with your own eyes and ears and heart, that comes free of charge. We love that. So you mentioned a few times about like your New Healers program, this mentorship that you do. Tell our listeners a little more about that. And I know they're going to want to look you up and find out more about you after listening to this episode.
Well, that my New Healers program is once a year. I do it every January. And it's literally health coaches and wellness practitioners. And I go through the body from the ancient perspective. And I teach them about the liver and the heart and the kidneys and the gallbladder and all of the different organ systems. And then how you can use food as medicine to support those organ systems.
To heal.
To heal.
Oh my God, you said it.
And to use exercises to support those organ systems because, the organ systems, when they're functioning well, then everything kind of harmonizes inside the system. So that comes out every January, that New Healers program. And then, of course, I have my food as medicine program. Oh, don't use that word.
Oh, definitely not.
And that's a much smaller program. That's a series of cooking classes, like getting in the kitchen and using food and herbs as medicine for like heart disease and cancer. And I remember, oh my gosh, 20 years ago, my website got attacked by talking about healing cancer naturally. It got attacked. And now more and more people are coming out and really using food and herbs and mushrooms for cancer. So I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not. Right? Yep, food can heal.
Food can heal. Maybe that's what we have to name this episode. Oh my God, and they're going to come after me. But you got to speak your truth, and you're always so fantastic at doing that. Where should our listeners go to either learn more about your program or just to get in touch with you?
Oh, they can go to www.andreabeaman.com. I also have a really fun community, andreabeaman.com/health community. And that community, there's cooking classes, there's natural healing things, there's a whole bunch of fun stuff in there. It's all the healthy, granola, crunchy, wellness people that you ever want to have in your living room.
That's us. I love that. I know you have like an ebook all about the meridians and stuff too. We're going to link to that in the show notes. So
cool.
Y'all can hit the show notes to find out everything you ever want to know about ancient medicine and Andrea Beaman. We are so glad that you joined us today, Andrea. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you for letting me share.
Yes, share it all. Say all the words you're not supposed to say. I'm living for it right now.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy, hold on to your hat, sister. Hold on to your hat as we move forward in this crazy world.
You heard it here first, everyone. Thanks for being here.